Hi everybody, it's Sherry from Alleged Actually, and I'm back tonight to recap Real Housewives of Potomac and Married Medicine. Tonight, I'm gonna hop on here just for a little bit because I know everybody is busy getting ready for the holidays, like myself, last minute Christmas shopping. So if you're like me, you're still busy trying to be wrapping all that up and getting ready for family and friends. And so won't be before you that long, but I do have to get into these two episodes from last night. I don't have a whole lot to bring to you on Real Housewives of Potomac, but there are some things we need to talk about. So last night's episode continues on with the scene of Robyn and Candace still going at it about the dialogue about the lawsuit, where Candace had made the comment that if Robyn hadn't spoke about Juan's lawsuit, that perhaps he wouldn't have gotten fired. I guess it really started to sink into Robyn because for the first time, guys, we see some emotion here. She starts to cry in the car. And for the first time, I won't say for the first time, that's not true. But for the first time, really, this season, because of her nonchalant, I don't care attitude, to see her break down and show some emotion, I really felt for her. There has been a ton of things, allegations, and things about Juan in the press. Everything for his part in the Title IX violation at the university that he was assistant coaching, everything to the women that he's been tied to, the one that he paid for the hotel room for, the Canadian woman, his fellow assistant coach that they saw pictures of him at the laundromat with or at the nail salon. Just a lot of stuff that just is out there and that's really making her look crazy. And he really doesn't seem very apologetic about it, but I digress. And so in the same regard, you see when Robyn says, okay, Candace, fine. She's trying to villainize me. I'm the one, I'm at fault. I got my husband fired. And she said, basically at this point, I don't consider you my friend. We're not friends. And that seems to strike a chord with Candace. And it seems to anyway, because Candace begins to cry. And then we're all kind of like, well, Candace, why are you crying? But we'll get into that. So Miss Ashley, who is the one that is spearheading this trip, because the ladies are still in Austin, wants the ladies to go to what is called a chicken-ish bingo event. So it's literally a thing in Austin, apparently, where there's a bar where there's music and dancing and people pay to pick numbers, where they wait and there's actual chickens in this bar and they wait for them to literally defecate on the number. If they defecate on said number that you picked, you win money. Okay. Well, child, Miss Karen was not feeling that because she has a thing with chickens. She does not do the dirty bird, as she said, which was cute. It was funny. But the really big thing in this scene is the ladies are all seated at a table. Ashley is trying to explain the rules of how it goes. And meanwhile, dialogue, Robyn just continues to break down. And then on the other side is sitting, because they're sitting around this table, there's Candace just weeping as well. So Robyn essentially decides she can't take anymore, and she gets up and she leaves and goes outside, and Mia follows her. Candace continues to cry, and Wendy is there to try to talk to her and console her. From Candace's perspective, and if you look at seasons past, she considered Robyn her friend. Giselle, not so much. But her and Robyn actually did share a friendship. If you guys remember the whole incident a couple seasons ago where she got into it with castmate at the time, Monique Samuels, they all rallied behind Candace. But that's just because they didn't like Monique, guys. I don't think it was so much as supported Candace. But that's my opinion. At any rate, Candace did consider Robyn a friend. The fact that Robyn no longer wanted to be friends with her. The fact that Robyn was so hurt, she just kept weeping. And it just seemed, I don't know, seemed a little dramatic. You know how she folds her little tissue up into a little triangle and dabs her tears? Well, she continued to do so. Meanwhile, Robyn's outside, literally sitting on a curb by the street. And Mia really just doesn't know what to do. She just does go after her to try to console her, but I think it had reached a level where it was just too much for Mia. So finally, Giselle, who should have been the one to follow her out, comes out and pretty much tells her, we're going to just grab a car and go back to the hotel. Because Robyn was really just done. She really had no more to give. And so, meanwhile inside, there's still more antics. Dr. Wendy starts to get into the chicken-ish bingo. And Ashley, of course, is around. They're bringing around live chickens. She's petting the chickens. Dr. Wendy's getting into it. And Candace is trying to pull herself together from her trauma, I guess, from the argument where, in fact, it started off where Robyn tried to ask about Michael Darby's lawsuit against her, against Candace and her husband, Chris. And that's when Candace says, are you dense? And then that's when Giselle puts out the little smart remark. Robyn wants to know, what can we talk about and what can't we talk about? And that's when she comes in and says, well, actually, I don't talk about lawsuits. And perhaps if you hadn't have done all that talking about Juan's, maybe he wouldn't have got fired. Okay. So anyway, they go back to the room eventually, and they talk more about each one's side about the fight. And guys, two things that stood out to me was this. Of course, Giselle and Candace are never going to be friends again. And that's solely because of how Giselle came at Chris last season, stating that he had done something that made her feel uncomfortable, that she'd painted this narrative that Chris was, trying to, I guess, come on to her or be inappropriate by asking her to step into a room that he could talk to her off camera. She said that when he closed the door behind him, that it made her feel uncomfortable. And if that's her truth, that's her truth. I'm not saying it didn't, because I don't know that that would make me feel the most comfortable either. But at the same rate, there were others that hopped on the bandwagon and tried to paint him in the light of the fact that he was unfaithful, or that he was, somehow doing things behind Candace's back. And she was just simply not here for it, naturally. But the thing I wanted to talk about that I found really interesting was the different dynamics in when Robyn decides to call Juan. Initially, it was to talk about, I guess he was trying to get his prescriptions filled, and being that he was fired, they now had to pay cash for the prescriptions. There was no insurance. And she was trying to talk him through that. She goes on in dialogue to say that he had 15 months left on his contract, and so right now they were financially okay. But if he didn't find a job within those 15 months, then that could cause a definite financial strain. And so she calls or FaceTimes Juan to get some comfort. She tells him how her and Candace got into it and how she just feels horrible because basically they're putting out there that she's the one that got him fired. Well, consoling was the last thing she got, guys, because Juan proceeded to go off. Now, some may say it was because he simply was tired of her speaking or caring about what they had to say concerning their business. On the other hand, it just seemed like he really didn't want to be bothered. He was annoyed by the fact that she was crying and upset. And he actually, y'all, screamed at her and ended the call. I mean, no compassion at all. I don't see it working, Mama. I just don't. I know that she's very protective and she defends him a lot. And I know that they have a very long history. Even after their first divorce, they remained very close. As you saw, they stayed in the same home together so they could co-parent their boys. And that's fine. And again, if your marriage is not conventional, that's cool, Robyn. But woman to woman, it just feels hard to watch. It really does. It feels hard to watch. And but we'll keep tuning in to see, where it goes. On the other hand, Candace calls Chris also to discuss, the fact that how she got upset. And he was certainly a lot more consoling. He listened. He had her back. It just, to me, showed the different dynamics of the different relationships. And I'm not saying that he's perfect either, because I think there's more to follow on Mr. Chris too. But it simply showed the difference in the way that the two different couples interact. And I really, honestly, y'all, I felt bad for Robyn last night. The positive note on the episode was the Grand Dame turned her 20-20-20. Yes, ma'am. She turned 60 and Miss Mama looks great. Karen, you look amazing. Happy birthday. I know this was shot before, but since last night was your birthday episode, happy birthday from Alleged. Actually, you look good. They went on a fun little kayaking trip. It was cute. Again, how do I feel about the Real Housewives of Potomac this season? I am still not totally here for it. I'm just telling you, I'm not as invested as I have been seasons before. I'm still unsure of the fact that Nneka is going to bring anything to the show. So far, nothing other than her and Wendy going back and forth. There wasn't as much of that in this one. There was some comments made where she thinks that Dr. Wendy manipulates Candace, but, nothing that was as alarming as in the other seasons. That's all I really got for Real Housewives of Potomac, guys. It wasn't the best, but I guess the biggest thing that I took from the show was we're finally seeing some emotion from Robyn. We're finally seeing where she's opening up a little bit more about, the fact that she does feel bad and she's becoming more human, maybe a little more likable. We'll see. Moving on to Married to Medicine. Y'all. Wow. Married to Medicine I was really shocked. And I wasn't shocked because I had already known, I had told you guys last week that we knew it was coming, that Quad had made the announcement on her Instagram that she had been asked to leave the show in the most disrespectful manner and that she was going to be gone within the next 2 episodes, which last night being the last episode officially on this season. And so it spills over from last week where the ladies were at dinner. They're in Napa Valley for Toya's wine club deal with Kendall Jackson. And they were going at it. When it wrapped up, it was her and Dr. Heavenly really going at it. But I want to tell you guys a little bit more. I know it looks so bad. And so I saw the episode or the YouTube commentary between Dr. Heavenly and Carlos King. I then saw the commentary between Carlos King and Quad. So you have 2 different perspectives. And I want to talk about that, and that's mainly what we're going to focus on tonight because that's the big ticket. That's the big thing that we're all talking about. Will people keep watching with Quad not on there? How do you feel about how the ladies kind of handled that? How do you feel about Quad? Here's the thing, guys. And I think you saw a very angry Dr. Heavenly because she put it out there that Quad had been had become difficult working with. That Quad was the type of friend that would disappear, that would go hang out with other people and be in other social settings and basically not speak to them for a year. They had really not talked since the reunion. And when Dr. Heavenly kept using the phrase that she felt used, it was because literally the fact that Phaedra had decided to not be the one to bring her on the Napa Valley trip with her, that's when Quad hits Dr. Heavenly up. Hey girl, what's the tea? You know, what's going on? You know, in order to schmooze her way in with Dr. Heavenly. Or at least that was Dr. Heavenly's perspective. So that wasn't the only instance of that, but that was the most recent. She was tired because she had already come to Quad when they met at her house, her and Phaedra with Quad, and she told Quad how she felt. Like, you know, now you got Phaedra, you just basically threw me away. She had already made that clear, and yet remained that it seemed like Quad continued to do some more of the same. Okay. So not only if you hear Quad say that I'm just right now not emotionally, not with you guys emotionally. In other words, we don't have an emotional bond right now. I'm broken and I'm trying to repair these relationships. And the ladies, for the first time, are actually giving it back to Quad, stating that, you know, you haven't been a good friend to us either. You have hurt us, because Quad does tend to play victim. You know, well, I've been hurt. Well, I've been going through. Well, I've been through this. Well, y'all weren't there. When they, in fact, did try, but Quad would ghost them, not call them back. Dr. Heavenly revealed that they would be on set waiting hours for Quad to show up. Instead of being apologetic, she would basically be like, all right, Miss Quad is here. Now what's good? She said, you know, they're all doctors. Her, Dr. Jackie, Dr. Simone. They film for 6-7 hours, but they still have to go to work, you know, and they were like, Quad, what are you doing? You know, it just, there was a lot of behind the scenes things that we weren't privy to why the ladies got so fed up. Now, when it comes to Toya, y'all, Toya just don't like Quad, basically. That's that. Her and Quad don't like each other. But I really think that the other ladies honestly had relationships with Quad that got torn because of the way Quad acted. But as we always say, there's two sides to every story. So according to Miss Quad, Quad had been trying to renegotiate her contract for the season of Married to Medicine. Okay. They were 5 episodes in, or 5, they were 5 weeks in to taping before Quad got an answer or got called to show up. So they had been filming already. From Quad's perspective, she felt like, you know, none of the other ladies have ever had to film with a husband's mistress, which, come on, that's not Dr. Gregory's mistress. That was his fiance and now wife. But I understood what she was saying. None of the rest of the ladies were put in these positions where they were put in these situations where it could be tense workplace, and so she wanted to be compensated for it. I get it. I do. I really do. She was hurt, I think, the way it was done. She had also been contacted by the producers about bringing Phaedra on. Apparently, before, even though Phaedra basically had pretty much, they had been grooming Phaedra to come on the show. But it was Quad that was her biggest advocate to join the show. You know, they all agree that Phaedra's good for TV, good for reality TV. Though, and I'm going to get into that, I don't know how good she is for Married to Medicine, because so far, other than a one-liner here or a little slick comment over here, she's really given us nothing. No storyline. Heck, not even a scene with the so-called doctor she was allegedly dating, which, according to Quad, according to Dr. Heavenly, none of the castmates even met the man. Ciao. But we know our beloved Miss Phaedra Parks tends to like to stretch the truth a little bit. So that doesn't shock any of us, now does it? Anywho, basically she advocated for Phaedra to come on the show. She felt like if anyone, to include Dr. Heavenly, because they did have a relationship, should have fought for her or advocated for her or stood up for her, it should have been those two. Well, we all saw that that didn't happen. And so I understood both sides, because you could see that every time they would try, Dr. Simone particularly, and I'm very proud of Dr. Simone, because I don't know about you guys, but in seasons past, that screaming and hollering in people's faces that she would do, was off-putting, man. Apparently, she has had some therapy or has watched herself and has learned to tone it down, because she did remain calm. And I know she was frustrated, because every time Dr. Simone would try to explain to Quad what they were feeling as far as also not receiving good friendships from her or good emotional ties from her or consistency from her, she would come right back with, well, I'm hurt too. I was done this way too. Me too. What about me? Okay. They decide to wrap up dinner and they all go back to the hotel. So in the next scene you see in Toya's room, it is Toya, Dr. Heavenly, Dr. Simone, Dr. Jackie, and Miss Phaedra Parks. Now, not sure why Phaedra was in there other than, well, she's Phaedra. Sweet Tea had gone her way. Dr. Alicia had gone her way. We don't know. They actually discuss how things went at the dinner, and they basically say, Quad is still not willing to own up to anything that she's done, that she's not being accountable for her actions. Even when she said at the dinner how the resurrection was her way of starting her friendships anew, you could see the look of shock on all of their faces, because according to Dr. Heavenly, and when the footage came back from last week, it did not go well, to the point that they said Toya and Quad almost went to physical blows, that it was very volatile, and there was nothing that was reconciled at all. So maybe a little delusion going on there. I don't know. They all decided they were emotionally done with it. I think they were drained, and they didn't want her to continue with them on that trip, because the next day was going to be the day that Toya met with the execs over at Kendall Jackson, and she wanted those that she felt really supported her to be with her. Okay. They all decide they're going to call her up that night, and they're going to tell her how they feel. Toya calls Quad and asks her to come up to the room, which she does. And they proceed to tell her, basically, and Dr. Simone pretty much led it off with, Quad, it's just not working for us. We don't have an emotional relationship with you. None of us do. And basically, we're asking you to leave. And Quad, you could tell, was taken aback. She did not expect that. She had hoped that they could make it work, that they could reconnect and become friends again. The ladies just weren't having it. You did, in fact, see her look over at Phaedra and make sure, last time I checked on Phaedra, we were good, right? And Phaedra did say that she had nothing against Quad. She said that before Quad came up, and so that was confirmed. And to wrap it up, she basically complied, went back to her room, was very hurt, and it was sad to watch. And then she does leave. And then the next part you see is the ladies going out to Kendall Jackson, to the vineyard, out for Toya to pitch her ideas about the partnership between Kendall Jackson and her wine club. Also, you get to see Dr. Jackie have her moment where she got to talk with Vice President Kamala Harris, which was great, on just the the high mortality rate in Black women in childbirth is just disproportionately from other races higher. Something that certainly needs the eyes and ears of the vice president, and that I'm very proud of Dr. Jackie for bringing that forward and for being a champion for that, because I do know that that is actually a very huge problem. It goes back to a lot of Black women don't get the proper prenatal care, or their lack of insurance, lots of reasons. I mean, I don't have the answer to that, but it is good that she has brought that cause to light on that platform and with Vice President Kamala Harris. And so prayerfully, we will start to see some programs and some initiatives that'll change that, and that we will see that unfortunate number come down. And so that was a highlight of the show. I will say that the ladies got a chance to hear a little bit from Dr. Alicia. Up until then, she's basically been a prop mute. What little we know is that she is married to an oral surgeon. She herself is a dentist. She is from Alabama, grew up as a child with a single mom, and her husband is Nigerian, who grew up very differently, apparently more privileged with servants and drivers and, cooks and helpers. And she was saying how different that was and how she was trying to conform to be more of a submissive wife, because apparently she is not practicing now. She is a full-time mom while, he is out. He is the oral surgeon. You also get to see the guys come together. It's always a good time when the husbands get together. I always think it's cute. We finally get to see Curtis on the scene. Hi, Curtis, because we were wondering when you went to the Dominican just by yourself on business with your track record. If Dr. Jackie likes it, I love it. But anyway, he makes his debut with the fellas. They all get together. They go to a pro shop where they play a little bocce ball and have a few drinks. Basically, they talk a little bit about the drama the women went through in Napa Valley and talk about how the ladies basically came together and basically asked Quad to leave and are pretty much done with their friendship with her. Sadly, what I did not like is the joy it seemed to bring Dr. Gregory. You're a whole psychologist and you shouldn't delight in that. I mean, your marriage is over, but to see her pretty much kicked out of the group, so to speak, come on now. I thought that was immature. He did tell Sweet Tea to stay out of the drama, which of course she should. She has nothing to do. This has been stuff that has built up for years. So it wasn't just for this season for ratings. I truly believe there was something behind that, really. And so rightfully so, she's just new to the cast, new to the show. And so she should, basically, that has nothing to do with her. But at any rate, that's pretty much where it kind of wraps up. We are going to keep watching and keep seeing how this show, keeps going. Basically, Quad will not be there for the next few episodes. I did, in fact, hear, though, she will make a short comeback before the end of the season. I don't know if it'll be enough to keep her for next season. We'll see. Let's see if she brings it at the reunion to solidify her spot. I don't know. I know that it was a little hard to watch. I felt bad for Miss Quad, but I understood both sides. I really did. So keep tuning in, guys. I'm going to say goodnight. Come back on Thursdays where you'll see me and my co-host Bria recap Married at First Sight. You guys have a wonderful evening. Keep subscribing, liking, sharing. Anything else you want me to talk about or recap, please leave it in the comments and I'll talk about it. And I'll be back on Thursday. And I'll see you then, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, that's Sherry with Alleged Actually. Good night.